Hey guys, and welcome. This will be a tour of Eurocopter's EC-130. This is not the latest and greatest T2 version. It's got the this is technically called the EC-130 B4. Here we are, and we're going to fire up the panel for you and give you a full tour of it. And I had a night flight last night, so we'll put it on steady. This helicopter, we have equipped it with the Garmin G500H, the GNS 430 WAS, and a Garmin 796 touchscreen. It's getting all fired up here. I'll go through all of our touchscreens. Alright, here we are. To give you a kind of layout of how we've set this helicopter up, this 130 is equipped right down here with Cobham's HeliSAS autopilot. It's a 2-axis autopilot that the autopilot really just controls the cyclic. It doesn't do any power inputs or anti-torque rotor pedal movements. The HeliSAS is connected to the Garmin 430 for nav features, and it's connected to the Garmin 500 for heading features. Unfortunately, it does not have any altitude pre-select or any hold altitude features like that. The Garmin 500 is obviously set up to do that, and hopefully one day we can maybe get that integrated, but at this point in time it's not. As you'll see here, Eurocopter's done a great job of incorporating the all the engine and gearbox features into a digital display, better known as the VEMD, Vehicle Engine and Multi-Display. As you see now, while we're here at idle, it's showing the torque T4, which is the power turbine, and the turbine outlet temperature, and the NG as our power turbine. Once the rotors get spun up, that gauge will go to one big gauge, kind of like you see here, into what we call a FLI, a first limit indicator, and makes it really easy and as far as cockpit management goes, very simple to fly. The Eurocopter 130 is equipped with a FADEC, dual channel FADEC, so engine starting is very simple by just coming right down here. All we'll do is go from the off to the on position, and the helicopter will start up all on its own. This EC-130 B4 is equipped with the dual channel FADEC. To start this helicopter up, you'll turn your master switches on here, the battery, the direct battery, and the generator. Also, this aircraft is equipped with traffic. You'll hit the traffic, the P-dot heat, and the avionics master, which is then followed by the fuel pump. I'm not going to leave that on long, but you push that fuel pump for 30 seconds, let that prime the system. Then coming up here, after the fuel pump's been on, you'll switch from off to on. That will start the start sequence process for the EC-130. You'll then bring your tension up here to the top display, channel 1 we call it. The biggest thing that we are looking for is to watch the heat on the power turbine, the turbine outlet temperature. The FADEC, if it does notice that it's getting too hot, the FADEC will shut it down. The only thing that is not foolproof on the FADEC or the computer that it cannot sense is our volts. If we have a weak battery, if the volts get down to 17 volts, the fuel valve will release and the FADEC won't know what's going on, and that's when a lot of interesting things can happen, and you can get into what's us pilots are known as a hot start. So we do want to double check. We know how computers can be glitchy. Our first attention will come up here, but we also, our biggest thing that we want to watch is the volts. This is a 28 volt system. As long as we don't get down to that magical number, everything will be just fine. to take you through a little bit while we're here on the VMD to show you what some of these gauges are. This is a French aircraft. A lot of everything is in Celsius or bar. I've gone through and changed what I can to American standards. You'll see this is our engine oil temperature and engine oil pressure, followed by the volts. This is what the generator output is releasing, our fuel flow, and how long at this fuel flow our endurance will be. Obviously the engine's not running now, it's just what it was last shut off at. Okay, this Garmin 500 is equipped with synthetic vision, which is great if you are flying in maybe a mountainous terrain where VFR conditions are not maybe very favorable. The Garmin 500 will show maybe a mountain or some hilliest terrain in shades of yellow and red, and also you've got a nice lady that will come over your headsets and tell you terrain, or pull up. Great feature to have. Coming over here to our left screen over here, you can kind of see we do have XM weather attached to this aircraft, so that we can see here, we're in the Dallas area, you can see the radar. Also it'll show you winds aloft, and once it gets loaded up a little more, you can also see a TFR on here. It looks like there's going to be an air show up there in Durant. That's what that TFR is. And actually what's even nicer is that TFR is not active yet. It's a yellow ring signifying that it will be active soon. And then also once it loads up a little bit more, it'll show you the green, blue, red flags over the field once they become VFR, IFR, so on. Of course, flying this helicopter, we have to have XM radio. Whatever, I guess I was listening to 20 on 20 earlier when I flew in. Also, this helicopter is equipped with, if you come down here to the left, this is tied into an XM source, or we can push that button and use an iPad or iPod. Gotta have good entertainment on those long flights. Flying the EC-130 is a great helicopter to fly. It's very easy to manipulate the controls. It's got a lot of fuel. Going into maybe more of some of the specifics of this helicopter, what to compare it to, I've got a lot of time in Robinsons and even some in an OH-58. A lot of pilots have the tendency in a two-bladed system to kind of get what I call the stick shake, and I notice this when I maybe give some lessons to guys where they'll want to take the cyclic and kind of they just easily do this rocking back and forth in these two-bladed systems. In this helicopter, it's very, very responsive, and you almost have to have the hands of a surgeon where you just want to hold the cyclic still. That'll create just a smooth hover for you. Kind of getting that stick shake just like this is way too much. You can literally just hold this cyclic still, and this helicopter will hover just like you want it, holding it still. No unnecessary movement like this back and forth is necessary at all. This EC-130 is equipped with also a Finstron. A lot of people, one of their first questions other pilots ask me is, how does that Finstron react similar to another type of tail rotor or conventional tail rotor? And I tell them, you gotta have light feet and tap dance on those pedals. It's very, very sensitive. Also, especially with the autopilot hooked up on this helicopter, the autopilot only does 5-degree movements, so if the helicopter gets out of trim or you've got lazy feet, one or the other, the autopilot won't react correctly. So in retrospect, the Finstron's very touchy. During normal cruising flight, you constantly have to make small adjustments on the pedals. It's not like maybe the conventional A-Star, what really this helicopter is. It really, you can't take your feet off the pedals. You can't be relaxed at any time, really. You have to constantly make small adjustments to it, and it's very finicky. It does have a lot of authority, though. I've never been in a situation where I'm hot, heavy, or high, and I've had to use full pedal in this helicopter. I've got almost 1,000 hours in this helicopter, and I've never once had to use full pedal, or maybe like in a Jet Ranger, you commonly hear of that helicopter losing tail rotor authority. It's got great authority, and also it's quiet. When you hear this helicopter come over, it seems like you hear maybe the main rotor first, maybe followed by some engine noise, and you just don't really ever hear that Finstron. It's very quiet, and it's a pleasure to fly. This EC-130 is equipped with, by the books, 147 gallons of usable fuel. At sea level, this EC-130B4 will burn about 50 gallons an hour, pulling about 8.5 on the FLI, first limit indicator. Now at sea level, if you want to pull up to 9.5, my FLI, on the FLI, my fuel burn will get up there to 55, maybe even 57 gallons an hour. And with 147 gallons, you can do that math, you've got about 3 hours of fuel. Now if you climb up to about 4,000, maybe even 6,000 feet, you can expect a fuel burn of about 45 gallons an hour. That'll give you a lot more range. I like to plan about a 350 nautical mile leg. And after that in this helicopter, if you have to start stopping for fuel after about 350, 300 nautical miles, depending on your wind, you start getting inefficient. Speeds, pulling about at that 8.5, 9 on the FLI, you'll indicate a true airspeed of 125 knots, lightly loaded. At your max gross weight, you can expect about 120 knots. You're a wide helicopter. The comparable A-Star, which is the same engine, blades, rotor, transmission, will do about 140 knots. So you've got a wide cabin here, and it's not quite as fast as that A-Star, but it's got great power, great range, and I think one of the neatest things compared to maybe a 407 or those Allison engines is that as soon as that FLI is turned on, or the engine is turned on, excuse me, the helicopter is ready to fly. There's no warm-up, and also it only has a 30-second cool down, as opposed to a lot of helicopters, the 206 in specific, it's about a 3-minute cool down. So that's real nice for when you've got passengers on board and they want to get out of the helicopter and stop those rotor blades. We've chosen to equip this EC-130 with 7 seats. We've equipped it in a VIP type configuration. A lot of your tour operators can equip the EC-130 with 8 seats. The 7-seat configuration has 3 seats up front, 4 in the back. The tour configuration will have 4 seats in the front, 4 in the back, where these front right 2 seats, they'll stagger. As you see here, we've got 3. They'll stagger them and put 4 up front. Or you can even, in an EMS configuration, what's getting real popular, they'll take that far right seat out. Alright, let's do an outside tour of the EC-130. We'll show you kind of how this is a left-hand PIC flying aircraft. As you can see, we hide the collective from our passengers over here. This aircraft is equipped with a couple of controls we'll go over really quickly with you on here. We can jettison the doors, we can pop the floats, and also we're equipped with a retractable searchlight, which is included with this top hat. This is how we turn it on, and this will move the searchlight. Also, as you can see, I call this my minivan sliding door. Slides on open and will lock. To unlock this door, there's a button up here we'll push to unlock it, and it'll close up. Here also we've got a cargo compartment for your baggage. This thing looks maybe small on camera, but in size, this is a cargo net that'll keep everything in its place. I can fit about 3, I call them rolly bags on here without any problem, and maybe a small duffel bag. This thing, Jake, you can see it's a lot bigger than it looks. I'll leave this in here. That's got a couple of latches up here that'll hold that up. 3 latches here will hold it on. Next, here's our locking. This is where we fuel it up. One single point to lock the fuel. you can see here. I put this here. I like to keep the cap up here to keep it from scratching anything. Moving right along, we've got this is to allow some fresh air. This is where all the avionics is stored. It's also a large cargo compartment. This is the fuel cap key, and also all of your FADEC controls and brains of the helicopter is in this cargo compartment. Very important to keep non-liquids out of this area. Close. Questions here on the 130 is, what is this device here? You can compare it to a horizontal stabilizer. It is fixed. It is required for flight. It is in the airworthiness of the aircraft. It cannot be removed for flight. Okay, moving right along, this is where the battery and a couple of the strobe lights is stored. No luggage compartments can be stored here. Alright, this is the EC-130 horizontal stabilizer. Some of the Blackhawks, they are movable. This is fixed, it's not going anywhere. And also Eurocopter was nice enough to give us the LED nav lights as well. It's fixed. One of our good pre-flight items is to check this brace in here, make sure there's no cracks. And it's good for flight, but it's sturdy on here, not going anywhere. Alright, here we've got the Finstron. This is a 10-bladed Finstron. As you can see, these blades are just aluminum. They're very fragile. You can see me wiggling that there. That is normal. You can see here, I'll do it on this one as well. Very fragile. Thin piece of aluminum. Just putting paint on these blades alone will put them out of balance. Very quiet, great design that works great. That's full pedal there. And that's full pedal, yeah. Anyway. Alright, here we are on the right side of the aircraft. We've got a couple of cool features here, including a tie-down point and high winds. Also, if you are in need of maybe a low battery, or it's cold out, you left your aircraft out overnight, you can use this hard point here to jump the aircraft off. 600 starting amps max on the 130. Also here we've got a baggage compartment. Now we've elected on this EC-130 to keep our fresh air vent on the outside of the transmission of the main rotor deck in this 130. Our goal in this was to try to eliminate as much hot air going in there as possible. And I keep a couple of things in here for the helicopter, maybe some rags, a little 409, and of course we got to have our own personalized bag there. This is also a breaker box, so we can do ground static run-ups. There's a button right here we can push to make the helicopter think it's in the air. Alright, as you can see here, this is our engine oil. I keep the oil just down here at the bottom. A lot of pilots that have problems where if it's at the max level, it will just kind of spit it out and not accept it. I keep it down pretty low. This helicopter is equipped with a dual hydraulic system, in that it's got two separate pumps. As you can see, one right here is belt driven. It's on the back of the transmission. And then over here on the front, we've got another pump here, right there, that gold piece. Another pump there, that's a mechanical pump that's driven right by the main rotor transmission. So in this EC-130, unlike some of your familiar A-Stars or Jet Rangers or R-44s, you'll have a switch on those helicopters to turn the hydraulics off. This helicopter does not even have an option to do that, and in our emergency procedure training, we don't even train for a hydraulic failure. To date in the EC-130, I will stand to be corrected on this, but to date in the EC-130, there's never been a known hydraulic failure. It's got a dual redundant hydraulic servos, when really it looks like one big servo, but actually the servo's big enough where it's actually two separate different servos all combined in one. There's 3 total servos, or really 6 servos for this EC130. Let's take a tour of the EC130 engine. Eurocopter was kind of genius on their design over here. You've got the fuel and the oil pump. They take the fuel and circle it around the oil pump so that in essence you heat your fuel and cool down the oil. Alright, here is the engine for the EC130. As you can see here, this is the compressor station, combustion and exhaust. Now the power turbine is freewheeling. It is not connected. There is a shaft here, but it is not connected in any way. The power turbine is driven by air. So the power comes out this way, comes down this rotor box, and turns these gears into here. This, as you can see, it says vibrometer. This provides the spark to ignite the fuel. Starter generator is here. Up maybe right here where my finger is. This is our bleed air valve. And our intake. If you actually look back up in there, it might look like a K&N air filter that's on your car. It's kind of similar. A little bit more pricey. A good couple pre-flight items. This is a hydraulic filter housing. If there's a little red button right out here that if the hydraulic oil starts getting contaminants in it, a little red button will pop out right here, and that means that the hydraulic filter has been bypassed. Not too big of an emergency. You've got another one just like this on the other side. All you'll need to do is just unscrew this and change out your oil filter. I'm sorry, hydraulic filter. Here as well. Fuel filter is based here. And then here on the accessory gearbox, this is the AC condenser, compressor, sorry. This is the rotor brake. How we slow down the rotors. Miscellaneous hydraulic lines, servos. How we get fresh air to the cabin is in these black lines there. You can get another good look there at that hydraulic pump. Now this is considered a fully articulated rotor system. The blades do lead and lag a little bit, all by elastomeric. All the black little groups there you see, those are elastomeric bearings. Rubber metal, rubber metal, rubber metal. And then that big 3-piece item you see there, we call it the Starflex. It's all composite. The great story that I've heard, I don't know this to be true or not, but supposedly when the Eurocopter was getting its certification on the blades, Eurocopter said something along the lines of, well, these blades are composite, they're lifetime. And the FAA said, whoa, whoa, whoa. We can't have such an important part like that be a lifetime component. So Eurocopter, supposedly, they put the blade on a test stand and they started running it, and they started showing fatigue at 40,000 hours. So then Eurocopter, the FAA said, okay, half that and that'll be your TBO. So these rotor blades are 20,000 hour TBO. Should be good for life of the helicopter. Just about there. Rotor brakes off. And we'll come right here and 30. Here we go. Get to 60% NG, go to our FLI, our first limit indicator. Turn our fuel pump off and lock this. Successful startup.